What if the darkness you fear most isn't hiding in the shadows, but lurking just beneath the surface of reality? What if the stories you dismiss as urban legends are far closer to the truth than you dare to imagine? Tonight, we venture into one of the most chilling mysteries ever encountered. A tale of vanishing footprints, eerie figures, and a sinister force that seems to defy explanation. This is not just another story. It's a descent into the unknown, where fear becomes tangible and the line between reality and nightmare blurs. But before we uncover the secrets buried deep within this terrifying narrative, let me ask you something. Are you subscribed to this channel? Many of you watching right now aren't, and by subscribing, you ensure you'll never miss any of the spine-chilling stories we reveal. If you crave unsettling truths and want to explore the darkest corners of our world, hit that subscribe button now. Join us as we unravel mysteries that will haunt your thoughts long after the screen goes dark. Now brace yourself. What lies ahead will challenge your perception of safety, reality, and what truly lurks in the shadows. Are you ready to confront your deepest fears? Let's begin. The night was unnervingly still, the kind of silence that seemed to press against your ears, making every small sound feel amplified. I had been driving along Route 112, a stretch of road that locals often avoided after dark. It wasn't just the sharp curves or the dense woods that flanked both sides. It was the stories, whispers of strange occurrences, of people who vanished without a trace, had turned this road into an urban legend of sorts. But I wasn't one for ghost stories. My focus was on the road ahead, illuminated only by the weak beams of my car's headlights cutting through the thickening fog. As I rounded a particularly tight bend, my heart jumped into my throat. A car, an old Saturn, was partially lodged in a snowbank on the side of the road, its front end crumpled as if it had collided with something solid. The red tail lights glowed faintly through the mist, giving the scene an almost surreal quality. I slowed down instinctively, my hands gripping the steering wheel tighter. There was no movement around the vehicle, no sign of its driver or passengers. Just that eerie glow and the faint imprint of footprints leading away from the crash site and disappearing into the darkness. I parked my car a few meters away from the wreck, leaving the engine running just in case. The fog seemed thicker now, swirling like smoke around the Saturn's broken frame. My pulse quickened as I stepped out, the crunch of snow underfoot sounding unnervingly loud in the oppressive quiet. The footprints leading away from the car were uneven, as if whoever made them had been limping or staggering. They disappeared into the dense woods on the right side of the road, swallowed by shadows that seemed darker than they had any right to be. I hesitated, glancing back at my own vehicle, its headlights casting long, distorted beams across the scene. Something about the car felt wrong, like it didn't belong there. The air carried a faint metallic tang mixed with something sour, almost like wine left out for too long. I peered into the driver's side window, cupping my hands against the glass to block out reflections. The interior was a mess. An empty bottle rolling on the floor, a crumpled map on the passenger seat, and dark stains splattered across the dashboard. My breath caught when I noticed a small stuffed animal wedged between the seats, a detail so personal it felt intrusive to even look at. Whoever had been driving this car wasn't just gone. They had left behind fragments of their life in a way that felt deliberate, almost staged. I decided to follow the footprints, though every instinct screamed at me to stay by the car and wait for help. The woods were dense, the trees towering like silent sentinels, their skeletal branches clawing at the fog. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the snow were trying to pull me down. The tracks led deeper into the forest, winding between trees and over uneven ground. My flashlight barely pierced the darkness, revealing only fleeting glimpses of disturbed snow and broken twigs. The metallic smell from earlier was stronger now, mingling with the earthy scent of decaying leaves. Suddenly I stumbled upon something that made my stomach churn. A torn piece of fabric snagged on a branch, stained dark red. It wasn't just the sight of it that unsettled me. It was the realization that whoever had left these tracks might not have been alone. I scanned my surroundings, my breath visible in the freezing air, but there was no sound except for the faint rustle of leaves overhead. The silence was oppressive, almost deafening, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. My flashlight flickered briefly, plunging me into darkness for a moment that felt like an eternity. I pressed on, my breath coming out in quick, shallow bursts as the cold air gnawed at my face. The forest seemed alive, each creak of a branch or rustle of leaves sounding like footsteps just out of sight. My flashlight caught something ahead, a faint glimmer, almost like the reflection of light on glass. I moved closer, my heart pounding so loudly it drowned out the sound of my boots crunching through the snow. It was a phone, half buried in the frost, its screen cracked and dark. I crouched down to pick it up, the chill of the metal biting into my fingers. The phone was eerily warm, as though it had been used moments ago. Before I could make sense of it, a noise behind me made me freeze. A low, guttural sound that didn't belong to any animal I could think of. Slowly, I turned, my flashlight shaking in my hand. The beam landed on a figure standing just at the edge of the trees, barely visible through the fog. It was tall and unnaturally still, its head tilted slightly as if observing me. My instinct screamed to run, but my legs felt rooted to the spot. Then, without warning, the figure stepped back into the shadows and disappeared as if it had never been there at all. I stumbled backward, my breath catching in my throat as I tried to process what I had just seen. The woods were silent again, but the oppressive feeling of being watched hadn't left. My hands shook as I gripped the flashlight tighter, its weak beam now seeming almost useless against the encroaching darkness. I debated whether to keep going or retreat to the safety of my car. But something about the footprints, those uneven, desperate tracks, compelled me forward. It felt less like a choice and more like an obligation, as if I owed it to whoever had left them to find out what had happened. The trail led me to a small clearing where the snow was disturbed, scattered in chaotic patterns as if there had been a struggle. In the middle of it all lay another object, a single boot, its laces frayed and its surface smeared with something dark that I didn't want to identify. My stomach churned as I crouched down to examine it, the air around me feeling colder than ever. That's when I noticed something else. Faint markings in the snow, almost like drag marks, leading away from the clearing and deeper into the woods. My heart sank. Whatever had happened here wasn't over. It had just moved further out of sight. I didn't want to follow the drag marks, but it felt like I had no choice. Every step deeper into the woods seemed to pull me further from safety, and yet I couldn't turn back. The air grew colder, the metallic smell now almost suffocating. My flashlight beam caught glimpses of the trail, disturbed snow, broken branches, and what looked like faint smears of blood. The forest around me felt alive, though not in a comforting way. Shadows seemed to shift just beyond the edge of my vision, and every creak of a branch made me whip around, expecting to see something or someone lurking. Then I saw it, a clearing up ahead, bathed in an unnatural glow that didn't seem to come from the moon or my flashlight. My heart pounded as I approached, my breath coming out in sharp gasps that seemed deafening in the silence. In the center of the clearing was what looked like an old well, its stone edges weathered and covered in moss. But it wasn't just a well. It was surrounded by objects that didn't belong there. A child's shoe, a shattered mirror, and what looked like a bundle of dried flowers tied with twine. The air around the well felt heavy, oppressive, as if it were watching me just as much as I was watching it. I stepped closer to the well, my flashlight trembling in my grip. The objects surrounding it felt like offerings, though I couldn't imagine who or what they were meant for. The glow emanating from the well wasn't natural. It pulsed faintly, casting strange shadows across the clearing. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but I couldn't. Something about the scene felt magnetic, pulling me closer despite the overwhelming dread crawling up my spine. I leaned over the edge of the well, shining my flashlight down into its depths. The light barely penetrated the darkness, but I could make out faint movement, ripples in the water far below. Then came the sound, a low, guttural noise that seemed to rise up from the well itself. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard, a mix of growling and whispering that made my skin crawl. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over one of the strange objects on the ground. My heart raced as I scanned the clearing, expecting to see something emerge from the shadows. But there was nothing, just that oppressive silence and the faint pulse of light from the well. I didn't know what was worse, the idea that I was alone or the possibility that I wasn't. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being lured like a moth to a flame. The well, with its strange glow and the objects surrounding it, felt like a trap. Something meant to draw me in. My flashlight flickered again, and I cursed under my breath, tapping it against my palm in a desperate attempt to keep it alive. As the light steadied, I noticed something new. A faint trail of footprints leading away from the clearing, smaller than the ones I had been following earlier. They looked fresh, the edges of each print crisp against the snow. My chest tightened as I realized they weren't heading back toward the road. They were circling the clearing. I turned slowly, scanning the trees for any sign of movement. The fog seemed thicker now, swirling around me like a living thing. Then I saw it again, the figure from before, standing just beyond the edge of the clearing. This time it was closer, its outline sharper against the fog. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, but its presence was suffocating. My legs felt like lead as I took a step back, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The beam landed on its face, or where its face should have been. There was nothing there, just a smooth expanse of skin that reflected the pale glow of the well. My legs moved before my mind could process what I was seeing. I stumbled backward, nearly losing my footing on the uneven snow, as the figure remained still, its featureless face fixed in my direction. My flashlight flickered again, and in that brief moment of darkness I felt an overwhelming wave of nausea. When the light returned, the figure was gone, vanished into the fog as if it had never been there. My breathing was shallow and erratic as I scanned the clearing, desperate to convince myself that I hadn't imagined it. But the drag marks leading away from the well told a different story. Something, or someone, was out here with me. I forced myself to move, following the marks deeper into the woods despite every instinct screaming at me to turn back. The trees grew denser, their gnarled branches intertwining above me like a skeletal canopy. The glow from the well faded behind me, leaving only the weak beam of my flashlight to guide me. The trail ended abruptly at another clearing, this one smaller and more enclosed. In the center was a mound of disturbed snow, as if something large had been buried there recently. My heart raced as I approached, the metallic smell now so strong it made my eyes water. I knelt by the mound, my hands trembling as I brushed away the loose snow. The ground beneath was hard and frozen, but there was something buried just beneath the surface, a dark, crumpled shape that made my stomach twist. I hesitated, my breath visible in the icy air, before reaching out to uncover more. The object was a jacket, torn and stained with what could only be blood. My mind raced as I tried to piece together what had happened here. This wasn't just an accident or someone getting lost in the woods. This was something far worse. Before I could process it further, the sound returned. The same low, guttural noise I'd heard near the well. It was closer this time, reverberating through the trees and making my skin crawl. Shot to my feet, spinning around with my flashlight in hand. The beam caught movement, branches swaying unnaturally as if something large had just passed through them. My heart pounded as I backed away from the mound, every instinct screaming at me to run. But where would I go? The woods felt endless, and whatever was out there knew these trees better than I did. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being hunted. The guttural noise echoed again, closer this time, and my flashlight flickered as if it were reacting to the sound. My hands were trembling so much that I almost dropped it. I scanned the trees, desperate to catch sight of whatever was out there. But the fog was too thick, swallowing everything beyond a few feet. My mind raced through possibilities, an animal, a person, something else entirely. Whatever it wasn't natural. I backed away from the mound slowly, my boots crunching in the snow, feeling deafeningly loud in the oppressive silence. Then, just as I turned to leave, the ground beneath me gave way. I fell hard, sliding into what felt like a shallow pit hidden beneath the snow. My flashlight clattered out of my hand and rolled to a stop a few feet away, its beam casting eerie shadows on the walls of what appeared to be an old, collapsed structure. The air down here was colder, damp and stale, and the metallic smell was overwhelming now. As I reached for my flashlight, my fingers brushed against something soft and cold, a piece of fabric soaked through with moisture. I froze as my light revealed what it was, a torn sleeve still attached to an arm. I scrambled to my feet, my heart hammering in my chest as I stared at the arm. The sleeve was torn, and the skin beneath was pale and mottled, almost blending into the frost-covered ground. My flashlight flickered again, casting erratic shadows that only heightened my sense of dread. I couldn't tell if the arm was connected to anything else. The snow and debris made it impossible to see clearly, but one thing was certain. I wasn't alone out here. The guttural noise echoed again, louder this time, and with it came the unmistakable sound of movement. Branches snapping, snow crunching underfoot. Panic surged through me as I grabbed my flashlight and scrambled out of the pit. My mind raced with thoughts of what could be lurking in the woods, but I didn't dare look back. I ran blindly, the beam of my flashlight bouncing wildly as I navigated through the dense trees. The metallic smell seemed to follow me, growing stronger with each step, as if it were clinging to me. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my legs burned from the effort of running through deep snow. All I wanted was to get back to my car, to escape whatever nightmare I had stumbled into. My legs burned as I pushed forward, the cold air slicing through my lungs with every breath. I didn't know how far I had run or where I was anymore. The forest felt endless, an unchanging maze of shadows and fog. The guttural noise had stopped, but the silence that replaced it was even worse. It was the kind of silence that made you hyper-aware of your own movements, every crunch of snow underfoot sounding like a gunshot in the stillness. I slowed down, my flashlight beam bouncing weakly off the trees, and tried to listen for anything at all. But there was nothing. That's when I saw it, a faint light flickering through the trees ahead. It wasn't the eerie glow of the well. This was different, warmer, like firelight. My heart leapt at the possibility of finding someone, anyone who could help me. I forced myself to move toward it, my legs trembling with exhaustion and fear. As I got closer, I realized it wasn't a campfire or a lantern. It was coming from inside a small cabin, barely visible through the thick trunks of the trees. Relief washed over me for a brief moment before unease crept back in. What was a cabin doing out here in the middle of nowhere? The cabin looked abandoned at first glance, its wooden exterior weathered and covered in patches of moss. The windows were fogged over, but the faint flicker of light inside suggested someone, or something, was there. I hesitated at the edge of the clearing, my instincts battling between the need for help and the overwhelming sense of dread that had been following me since I'd left the road. My flashlight beam wavered as I stepped closer, the crunch of snow beneath my boots sounding impossibly loud in the stillness. The door was slightly ajar, creaking softly as it swayed in the faint breeze. I stopped just short of the porch, my breath catching as I noticed something carved into the wood of the doorframe. Symbols, intricate and strange, etched deep into the grain, their meaning indecipherable but undeniably deliberate. They looked old, worn by time and weather, yet they radiated an unsettling energy that made my skin crawl. I reached out to push the door open further, but before my hand could touch it, a shadow moved inside. A quick, fleeting motion that sent a jolt of fear through me. Someone, or something, was definitely in there. I stepped onto the porch, the wood creaking under my weight, and pushed the door open with trembling fingers. The cabin's interior was dimly lit by a single lantern on a table in the center of the room. The air inside was thick, heavy with the scent of damp wood and something faintly metallic, an odor I had come to dread. The furniture was sparse, a rickety chair, a small cot in the corner, and shelves lined with jars filled with murky, unidentifiable substances. But what caught my attention most was the table. Spread across it were maps, photographs, and notes, scrawled in a handwriting so jagged it looked like it had been etched in desperation. As I stepped closer, my eyes scanned the photographs. They were of people, strangers, standing in places that felt eerily familiar. The well, the clearing, even the road where I had first seen the abandoned car. My stomach turned as I realized. One of the photographs showed me, standing by my car just hours ago. My hand flew to my mouth to stifle a gasp as I backed away from the table, nearly knocking over a jar on one of the shelves. That's when I heard it again. The guttural noise, this time coming from somewhere inside the cabin. The guttural noise grew louder, reverberating through the small cabin like a low, vibrating hum. My body froze, every muscle locked in place as I strained to locate its source. The shadows on the walls seemed to shift unnaturally, as if the lantern's light was being manipulated by something unseen. I clutched my flashlight tightly, its beam trembling as I swung it toward the corner of the room. There, partially obscured by the dim light, was a figure crouched low to the ground. Its limbs were too long, its movements jerky and unnatural, like a marionette being controlled by invisible strings. I stumbled backward, knocking over the chair and sending it crashing to the floor. The sound seemed to jolt the figure into action. It rose slowly, its head tilting at an unnatural angle as it turned toward me. My flashlight caught its face, or what should have been its face, but there was nothing there, just smooth, pale skin stretched tight over bone. My breath hitched as it took a step forward, its elongated fingers reaching out toward me. The guttural sound deepened, resonating in my chest like a physical force. I turned and bolted for the door, my heart pounding so hard it drowned out everything else. I didn't stop running until I was well into the woods, my legs threatening to give out beneath me. The guttural sound still echoed in my head, even though the cabin was far behind me now. My flashlight flickered again, and this time it went out completely, plunging me into darkness. Panic surged through me as I fumbled with it, slapping it against my palm, but it was no use. The forest closed in around me, the shadows feeling almost tangible, pressing against my skin like icy fingers. I tried to steady my breathing, but every sound, the snap of a twig, the rustle of leaves, made my heart race faster. Then I saw it again, the faint glow I had seen earlier near the well. It was ahead of me now, pulsing faintly through the fog like a beacon. My first instinct was to turn away, to avoid whatever was drawing me back toward that unnatural light. But something about it felt different this time. It wasn't just a glow, it was moving, shifting through the trees like it was alive. Against all logic, I found myself walking toward it, each step feeling heavier than the last. The air grew colder with each passing moment, and that metallic smell returned, stronger than ever. As I drew closer to the shifting glow, I realized it wasn't coming from a single source. It seemed to ripple through the trees, casting strange, warped shadows that moved independently of the light. My chest tightened as I stepped into another clearing, this one smaller and more enclosed than the last. In the center was a circle of stones, arranged with meticulous precision, and inside it, something writhed, a mass of light and shadow that defied logic. It pulsed like a heartbeat, sending waves of cold air that made my breath visible in the dim light. The metallic smell was overwhelming now, almost choking me. I wanted to turn back, to run as far as I could from whatever this was, but my body wouldn't respond. It was as if the clearing itself had trapped me, holding me in place with an invisible force. The writhing mass began to shift, elongating into shapes that resembled human figures, tall and thin with impossibly long limbs. They moved in unison, their heads tilting in unnatural angles as they turned toward me. My flashlight flickered weakly in my hand before going out completely, leaving me alone in the dark with whatever had emerged from that light. The figures moved closer, their elongated limbs bending in ways that defied anatomy. I stumbled backward, my chest tightening as the cold seemed to seep into my bones. The glow from the mass behind them pulsed faster, casting their shadows in grotesque, shifting patterns across the snow. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body refused to obey, frozen in place by a terror so primal it felt like my very survival instincts had short-circuited. One of the figures extended an impossibly long arm toward me, its fingers tapering into sharp, claw-like points. The guttural noise returned louder now, vibrating through the clearing and rattling in my skull. With a surge of adrenaline, I finally broke free from my paralysis and turned to flee. My legs felt like lead as I pushed through the dense trees, branches clawing at my face and arms. The light from the clearing faded behind me, but the guttural sound followed, growing fainter but never disappearing entirely. I didn't dare look back. I could feel them behind me, their presence pressing against my back like a physical weight. My only thought was to keep moving, to put as much distance as I could between myself and whatever I had just witnessed. The cold air burned my lungs as I ran, my legs threatening to give out with every step. The forest seemed endless, an unrelenting maze of trees and shadows that offered no sense of direction. My mind raced, replaying the image of those elongated figures and the pulsing light that had brought them to life. The guttural sound was gone now, replaced by an eerie silence that felt even more oppressive. I couldn't tell if they were still following me, but the feeling of being watched was unbearable. I stumbled over a root hidden beneath the snow and fell hard, the impact knocking the wind out of me. As I lay there, gasping for breath, I noticed something in the distance, a faint glow filtering through the trees. My heart sank. It wasn't the warm light of safety or civilization, it was the same unnatural glow I had seen before. Somehow I had circled back to it. Panic surged through me as I scrambled to my feet, my body trembling from exhaustion and fear. The glow grew brighter, and with it came a low hum that seemed to vibrate through the ground beneath me. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't going to let me leave. The glow seemed to pulse with an almost hypnotic rhythm, drawing me closer despite every fiber of my being screaming to turn away. My feet moved on their own, crunching through the snow as I approached the clearing once more. The figures were there, waiting, their elongated forms swaying slightly as if caught in an unseen current. The mass of light and shadow at the center of the stones had grown larger, its pulsations faster and more erratic. I felt a pressure in my chest, as if the very air around me was being sucked into that impossible void. My mind raced for a way out, but there was none. This thing had brought me here for a reason. Then, one of the figures stepped forward, its movement slow and deliberate. It extended a hand toward me, its long fingers curling in a gesture that felt both inviting and threatening. The guttural noise returned, not from the figures but from the mass itself, reverberating through the clearing like a low-frequency hum that rattled my teeth. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body wouldn't respond. The figure's hand hovered inches from my chest, and in that moment I felt something shift inside me. A cold, invasive sensation that spread through my veins like ice water. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just watching me. It was taking something from me. The glow pulsed faster, its rhythm erratic and almost alive, as if it were responding to my presence. The figures moved in unison, their elongated forms swaying toward me like shadows cast by an unseen flame. My body felt heavier with each step they took, as though the air itself was thickening, pressing down on me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My voice was trapped somewhere deep inside me, swallowed by the oppressive silence of the clearing. The figure closest to me extended its hand again, and this time I couldn't move away. Its fingers brushed against my chest, and a searing pain shot through my body, radiating outward like fire in my veins. My vision blurred as the clearing seemed to collapse in on itself, the pulsing light consuming everything around me. The last thing I saw before darkness overtook me was the mass of light and shadow splitting open, revealing something inside, something that shouldn't exist. It was a face, but not a human one. Its features were distorted, shifting like liquid, and its eyes burned with an unnatural intensity that pierced straight through me. Then everything went black, and I felt myself falling, not through space, but through something deeper, something endless. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but when I opened my eyes, the forest was gone. I was lying on the cold, hard ground of what seemed to be an endless black void. There was no sky, no horizon, just an oppressive darkness stretching in every direction. My body felt heavy, as if something was weighing me down, and my chest burned with a dull, persistent ache. The metallic smell lingered, stronger than ever, and I realized it wasn't just in the air. It was on me, clinging to my skin like a second layer. I tried to sit up, but my limbs felt sluggish, like they didn't entirely belong to me anymore. Then I saw them again. The figures. They emerged from the darkness one by one, their elongated forms moving with that same unnatural grace. They surrounded me in a loose circle, their featureless faces turned toward me as if studying me. The guttural noise returned, but this time it wasn't coming from them. It was inside my head, reverberating through my skull like a relentless drumbeat. I wanted to scream, to beg them to stop, but no sound came out. Instead, one of the figures stepped forward and reached out its hand again. This time, I didn't have the strength to move away. What if the answers to the most chilling mysteries are hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover them? Now I want to hear from you. What do you think really happened in this story? Could there be a rational explanation, or is there something far more sinister at play? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'm eager to know what you think. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Many of you watching aren't subscribed yet, and by joining our community, you'll ensure you never miss a story that could change the way you see the world. Before you go, check out the next video recommended on your screen. It's another mind-bending tale that will keep you questioning reality. Thank you for watching. I'm Jack, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay curious and stay safe. Did this conclusion work for you, or would you like me to tweak something? Let me know.